Welcome to Whatever This Is, the podcast for the casually curious. I am Jason, and thanks for joining today. I had many things I want to talk about, but today I wanted to delve a little bit into hyper independence and asking for help. I do consider myself as an extremely hyper independent person. I think it has come from many years of people consistently disappointing me. And it actually got worse. I mean, about 10 years ago when my grandma died, I was like, okay, this is the last person that I know that I can actively rely on. I mean, don't get me wrong, I do have friends, I do have family, I do have every people around, but like I do have a lot of people around, but there is that, we all have that person where we know that, okay, fine, this is the sure banker. This is the person that I can actually go on when shit hits when shit hits the fan, when things don't go right, I can go always to this person. And sometimes when that person is gone, we try to cope by realizing that, okay, fine, if the foundation or the pillar that we have is gone, how can we survive? And recognizing also that other people have disappointed us also puts us in a space where we are like, okay, I'm not going to ask for more help. I'm not going to ask you because you've disappointed me once. And sometimes it's a coping mechanism. For me, it's been the armor that has protected me. I mean, looking back over the past 10 years since my grandma died and having the anniversary this year, I am like, I have not asked myself, or I have not asked a lot of people for help. Not because I don't want to ask them for help, but I feel like I don't want to be a burden. But it's actually quite funny because on the opposite, I am quite helpful when my friends, family, anyone else needs help. I feel like it's much more easier to be of service to them than for me to actually ask them for something. And when you look at the wording that I use, I mean, me helping them feels like more a service. I mean, it's okay, it's fine. It's a friend, you do it. But then me asking them for help feels more like being a burden. And one of the things I had to unlearn actively this year is that I need to, one, be honest and open about the things that I'm going through with, even if not friends, at least close family or people, one or two people I can have honest conversations with, but also be willing to accept the help they provide when I ask or when I sort of tell them the things that I'm actually going through. And that has been the hardest part of the year. I had a conversation with a friend who was telling me that closed mouths don't get fed. And even if you tell people your problem, the worst thing that they're going to do is probably laugh at you or whatever behind your back. And after 5, 10 minutes, they've forgotten and moved on. This has put me in a space where I feel a bit more comfortable asking people for help now. I think that disappointment still comes. And as someone who holds a core value of consideration as the highest form of love, I consider how my actions and inactions make other people feel. And when you compound that with expecting people to behave the way you are or to be expecting people to do what you would do in any situation, leads to your disappointment and ultimately resentment. That has also been something that I have been really thinking about, especially when it comes to asking people for help. So now when I go to ask people for help, I don't go with it expecting the help to come. Before, I would not even ask for help. Now I don't go in expecting the help to come. I'm more in the point of, okay, I'm going to ask you if you can provide support. Absolutely, yes. If you cannot provide support, it's fine too. And I have come to the learning that sometimes asking for help, the help may not always come in the form that you want it. So sometimes when you go to someone and it sort of speak about something, it doesn't always have to be financial help. Sometimes it has to be someone just sitting down or picking a glass of water for you or passing you something. And that has been something very difficult for me to even ask people. I feel like I would obviously do it myself. It sort of makes it easier for me to sort of not stress. But then realizing that this hyper independence would ultimately mean that in spaces where I genuinely need help, I cannot put myself in that space to ask because I feel like already they're going to disappoint me. I rob my friends, loved ones, the chance of showing up for me the same way that I also show up for them in times when they need help. And that also robs me from also getting what I need. This has been the loop. And my plan is to intentionally break the loop. How am I intentionally breaking the loop of hyper-independence? I am starting to get comfortable with asking for the tiny things. I mean, I'm not going to tell you everything or ask for the biggest of the things that I need, but I'm going to start from bits and pieces. So can you please buy me this when you're coming from the store? Or can you please pick this up for me? Can you do this? Can you do that for me? And I have come to the realization that oftentimes people are ready to actually do it. Sometimes you just need to ask for it. And with hyper independence, we sort of have these scenarios in our mind of what disappointment is going to look like if we open our mouth. And sometimes these scenarios never really pan out. People are quite open and helpful. People are going to show up if you honestly do ask for help. So, a perfect example is when I moved to Berlin a few years ago. I mean, I was trying to get the train, I didn't have loose change, and etc. And I had like a bill, and there was a guy who was coming to pick up the train. I was like, could you have change, or I can give you this and you can buy me a ticket? And he sort of got the ticket for me, and I gave him the money, and he said, no, it's fine. That's it. I mean, on that day, I would not be able to have been at the location that I wanted to be on time, because if I hadn't asked for help, I would have tried to actively figure it out. And sometimes you just don't know. You are in a new space, you're in a new situation, and then you just don't know. So it's always good to check in with yourself and ask yourself that, hey, do I need help? Who can actually help me with this? And also not feel bad or feel shy about asking for help, because sometimes, I mean, aside the disappointment, we also don't want to feel like a burden. And then we also don't want to, we are like, oh, I mean, I don't want to bother you. Please bother people. I think that we owe it to ourselves to not be a burden on our friends and family, but also be able to show up and also let them help us in the same way that when they show up and ask for help, we can also do that. So it's not that hyper independence is innately a bad thing. I feel like for me, hyper independence has been this armor that has protected me and kept me going. It's always meant that, okay, when shit hits the fan, you can count on yourself to pick yourself up. It has built some resilience in me over the years, but ultimately, I realized that to move on is something that I need to either tweak a little bit, because my current reality now is not what it was before when I needed extreme hyper independence or hyper vigilance to keep me going. My current circumstances do not really need me to have that level of it. It just means that now I need to be open to having friends. I need to be relaxed enough to have friends to do simple things like cooking for me, because most of the time my friends always find it very difficult when they come like, oh, I'm going to cook. And they're like, yeah. But now I'm like, if you cook, I would probably eat. I may not eat as much, but I'll probably taste it. I would enjoy you buying me stuff and buying me gifts, as compared to before, where I would feel like, oh no, save your money, don't do that, I don't want to be a bother. I would be open to people honestly doing things for me, going out of their way to do things for me. And I feel like sometimes the whole hyper independence puts us in a spot where, because we have seen these disappointment regularly, that's it. But here's my closing remark. Expecting people to do what you would do in any situation would lead to your disappointment. But also, consideration is the highest form of love. It means that in as much as people are considering you and showing up for you, they may not show up for you in the way that you want. And that is something that I have come to realize, that, okay, maybe my standards are 100, the person's standards are 50, or what they can offer is a 50. I need to appreciate that the help that is going to come from them may not look like the way that I want it to look like. And that should not be disappointment. It just means that for this person, this is how much they can actively do for me. And realizing that makes it much more easier to ask for and accept help, because I know that, okay, it's not going to be perfect, but it's at least going to be some form of help. And it may not necessarily be financial assistance. It sometimes may be even having someone to actually talk to about things that really bother you. We have sort of built these walls around ourselves and these armors in our hyper independence that I do not need anyone. Baby, we all need someone. We all need someone on days when we are sick. We all need someone on days when we are happy. We all need someone on days when we are sad. Sometimes you just need someone to just sit down there, not do anything, and just sit with you whilst life is happening. And looking back at this year, life has happened multiple times. And until quite recently, I was able to sit with an uncle, have an honest conversation with him. And I was like, I haven't had this conversation with this person. Did I give this person the chance, or did I ever provide the right opportunity to have a conversation as honest with this person? Absolutely not. Because my hyper independence felt like I didn't want to be a burden on this person. But they were quite receptive. They were quite helpful. They were honestly, it was like a non-judgmental listening space that we sat down, we spoke, and then we chilled. And I was like, if I open myself up to being, or if I open myself up to asking people for help quite often, I do believe that I would have had some more help in the past 10 years than I have had now. That is not a bad thing. It's just a learning that, okay, now moving forward, what do I do? My hope is that moving forward, I would be able to take up more space and also ask people for much more help than I'm actually asking for now, as compared to before, where I would honestly ask for nothing. But my other learning is that sometimes I would also need to communicate. Sometimes, if I need help, it's not just about the mental needing help and the story that we tell ourselves, but it's about opening your mouth and actually asking for help. And it's always difficult. I mean, if it's not something that you do, it's a muscle. It's a muscle. You need to train it regularly. You need to be open to asking people to make store runs for you, to ask people to pick stuff up for you. Maybe you're going on, or it's lunch and you have to ask like a colleague to grab something for you. I mean, it's baby steps. And I'm not asking you to drop down the whole armor of hyper independence because now maybe life is changing. No, I'm saying that it has served you up till now, and you may need to tweak it a little bit. You may need to either change the direction, the way, the shape or form in which you ask for help. And sometimes it is quite sad, like thinking about it, like retrospectively now, it is quite sad because I have been consistently helpful to my friends, not because I feel like it's a burden or whatever, but I feel like as a friend, I can be helpful and I can provide that support. So why then do I deny myself that if a friend also wants to help and support me? You see, the math just doesn't add up. Because if you are okay with giving people the support that they need, why then does it become much more difficult for you? And truthfully, it's been disappointment, it's been trauma, it's been life happening, it's been consistently having to deal back to back disappointment. And it's quite difficult, babes. Like in all honesty, it's quite difficult to know that, okay, fine. The likely potential of someone disappointing you again, especially if it's something that you need or something that you want, is quite shattering. But life goes on. You are going to be fine if whatever you ask for doesn't come that way. You can move and ask someone else. And that's the thing. Sometimes you asking one person doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Maybe that person cannot provide you that support, but they can intend send you to someone else who's also going to help you. So as we gather our thoughts, prayers into dirty December and all the chilling and all that we are going to do in the Christmas period, and also creating resolutions, etc., for the new year, please drop the armor of hyper independence. It will serve you for a while, but hyper independence is not going to be the armor that you need to carry on until the very end. Please be open to asking people that you love for help. And it's very sad when maybe years after things happen and then the people that you love or people who love you sort of say that, but you never came to ask me for help. I mean, mentally I did. I mean, mentally I created scenarios of asking for help and I sort of expected you to disappoint me. But truthfully, I didn't ask you. Truthfully, I didn't also give them the chance. And it's so sad that we rob our loved ones of the chance to actually show up for us because we do not feel comfortable enough to ask them for help. So throughout my whole talk about hyper independence and the nitty-gritties of it, please ask for help. No matter how big or small you think it is, ask someone for help and be open to receiving the help. Be open to having someone pick or buy lunch for you. Be open to having someone pick up a glass of water for you. Be open to having someone do something that you need for you. It's not a bad thing. It's just your brain doing a lot, and sometimes trauma puts us in that space where we feel like, oh, I don't want to ask anyone for help because they'll disappoint me. Baby, if they disappoint you, then what? You will move on. If they disappoint you, you would find someone else to provide the support for you. If they disappoint you, you're going to learn. But don't let the perceived threat of disappointment prevent you from a conversation that may be quite helpful or far more productive or far more beneficial if only you have it. So that's just it for today. Please drop the armor. I'm not saying drop everything. I'm saying that assess your situation and realize that sometimes some of these coping mechanisms like hyper-independence prevent us from actually growing. And it has served the versions of ourselves then that needed to be served. But in this case, in the present day and age that we are in, we need to be open to people providing support. We need to be open to receiving it, and we need to be open to getting it really. Let's take away the fluff. Yes, people will disappoint you. I mean, people have disappointed me multiple times, and I think that it's scary to ask people for help, especially when these things have happened multiple times, because you know that, oh, they're gonna disappoint me. But sometimes just ask. sometimes just ask for help. Sometimes be like, hey, I need you. I need this. And most of the time, for hyper independent people, the help that we need are not the very big things. The help that we need are the tiny things, the small, small things that we feel like people can be able to do for us, but then it feels like it's a burden because the person is going out of their way to do that. But you also burden yourself by helping your friends. You also are equally comfortable with basically keying over and doing things for your friends because you're like, okay, but this is my friend, I can do it for them. So be open to receiving help, be open to receiving support. And hopefully, whilst you drop this, as with other many coping mechanisms that we've had to deal with growing up, you will have a much easier life. I'm not saying it's all going to turn all rosy, but then it's a muscle. And don't be shy. Do a bit today, do a bit tomorrow. You can even set an intention to ask someone for help. It can be once a week, it can be once every 2 weeks, or let it be something that you do. Start from the small things before you get to the big things. And know that even if disappointment happens, you are at least trying to ask for help. The benefits outweigh the disadvantages of not asking for any help at all. So please do it. The people around you care about you. The people around you want to help you, and they can only help you if they know what you want or if you sort of tell them what you want. That is the best way in which they can do that. So, thank you again for listening to whatever this is, the podcast for the casually curious. And I do hope that this has been able to resonate with you. Again, I am Jason, and it's been lovely talking to you. Until next time.